Hey girls, and welcome to season 4 of the Hey Girl podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Needham. This season, we get to hear stories of faithfulness from stay-at-home mamas, business entrepreneurs, some amazing single ladies, your dearest friends, and your favorite authors. We hope these stories will continue to encourage you to run your race in your place. For more information and to connect with us, go find us on Instagram and Facebook. We're at HeyGirlPod, or you can join our email list through my website, bethanyneedham.com. As always, thanks for listening. If it weren't for you, I would literally be a crazy person talking to myself in a microphone. But thanks to your listening and sharing this podcast, I get to be a crazy person talking to you through a microphone. So grab a cup of coffee or a cold can of seltzer and let's get this episode started. Hey listeners. This week on the Hey Girl podcast, you're going to get to hear from my new friend, Stefanie Gass, the host of the Mompreneur Mastermind Show. But before we get to the show, I have to pause and say thank you to every single one of you who took the time to leave a review. All of them meant so much. I was feeling all the feels reading through them. And I wanted to pause for a moment to share just one that really stood out to me. Mindy, I loved your review. It says, "Hey Girl is one of the ways I fill my cup. I look forward to hearing the faith stories of other women and men. My daughter and I listen to the podcast on our way to school and work. It's created very special moments for us and has sparked wonderful conversations. We laugh and cry as we relate in some way to each story. If you think time is precious, then you'll want to tune in." Oh, Mindy, you got me on all levels. I love how much this podcast is meant to you, but I especially love that this has become a special thing for you and your teenage daughter. So thank you, Mindy, for leaving the review. Thank all of you who have taken time to do it. And if you haven't gotten to yet, definitely you want to support us, take the time. It only takes a few moments, and it means so much to our podcast and being able to share these stories with more and more people. So without further ado today, I cannot wait to introduce you to our first guest of season 4. Please meet my new friend, Stefanie Gass. Listeners, I am so excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Stefanie Gass. You came through... Okay, is it a publicist that works for you that reached out to me?
Yeah, she's like my podcast holy grail human, and she does a lot for me. She helps me pitch to other, similar niche podcasts. She helps me with my guest process, keeps me orderly because I'm just like, Nina, what do I have today? Send me my links because it just gets crazy. So yes, Nina is my human.
Goodness gracious. Now that you've told me this, I'm going to reach out to Miss Nina and be like, so you and I
come work for me.
We've had this relationship for a while.
You're allowed to have a little of her.
Yes. Yeah, she's sent a couple of really amazing guests my way. So
cool.
I have a few different people, which now it would be awkward to name them all, but a few different people that do similar roles that pitch me things on a regular basis, but very rarely do they always fall into line with what we do. So I appreciate her that she seems to have a good sense of what we do. And so when I see her name come in, I was like, ooh, who's she sending next?
I love it.
Well, Stefanie, for those who may not know you, maybe haven't heard your name before, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So I am just this country mama, live outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've got a almost 6-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. They're boys. So pray for me, pray extra for me because I've got husband, a boy dog, and boys. So it's crazy over here. Let's see. I run a podcast. My whole mission and call on this earth is helping women uncover their own God-led calling and then create a platform to create a business out of it so that they can feel like they're pouring into the world with what their callings are, but yet make money from it through podcasting and online courses. So that's what I do. I go to the gym and I drink too much coffee. So there you go. That's me in a nutshell.
We are like kindred spirits. I love it. Except you're like the smarter half of this whole equation.
No way. No way.
So tell me then, Stephanie, you mentioned a big part of your calling is people finding not just their calling, but God-led, like what is God laid out for you? So let's rewind a little. When did your relationship with God begin? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I was probably 10 and we went to the Easter service where I live, and they have this huge Easter service on a football field. Everybody's in that football arena, and it's a big church here. They have the band and the lights and all the things. And we're listening to the sermon, and I remember starting to feel fuzzy, like everything was feeling really fuzzy. I'm like, am I going to faint? Like, I don't know what's happening here. And I kept sitting still and quiet, and then tears started to stream down my face. And at that moment, he did the altar call. And he said, you're ready to receive Christ. And at this point, I hadn't been baptized yet. We went to church on Christmas and Easter, right? And I just told my mom I want to go. And it was, bless her heart, because that's a big crowd, right? There's, I don't even know, 10,000 people. She's like, let's go. And she went down with me, and I received Christ. And it was amazing. I got baptized, but I was 10. And so the relationship with Christ had been, the bond was, created, so to speak. But I don't think I really became a true, I'm just going to let it all loose, sacrifice everything, and be born again until my 30s. So that's really interesting. I'd always say, oh, I'm a Christian. Yes, I believe in God, but I was still living for me. And I think like so many of us, and I'll share this story because I think this will be really beneficial to the listeners. Going through kind of searching for your worth is a long journey. And I think it starts for many of us when we're in our teenage years. And as a teenager, I was looking for worth in, being popular, fitting in with everyone, doing the things that society at that time, which was high school, told me to do. So that led to partying, trying to be popular, being mean to people. And, for a second, you feel cool and you feel worthy, and then you're empty again. So then I got into my 20s and I said, oh, worth and validation comes from looking beautiful. It comes from starving myself to be skinny. It comes from working out excessively. It comes from diet pills. It comes from getting breast implants, which I ended up doing. It comes from men that, all they care about is what I look like. And so I went through that in my 20s. And then I was left empty again, right? Because you're searching for this thing that just can't fill you. And so then I got into my late 20s, right around 27, and met my now husband and got into network marketing. And then it was like, oh, I get it. Success and worth comes from money. I hear you. Here we go. This is what it is. So what did I do? And I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, if you guys follow that test.
I was going to peg that right away.
Yeah.
Like, you're a 3 or an 8.
I'm the achiever. I'm the achiever hardcore. And so, which is great because I can do amazing things on the planet, right? I'm not scared. I'm very confident. I'm a great speaker. I know my strengths, but my weaknesses are very, it's easy to fall prey to being an achiever. So through network marketing, I got my first taste of entrepreneurship. It was such a blessing. And it was also a curse because I let that become the biggest idol in my life. Mm-hmm. How fast can I climb to the top? I hit the 1% of the company. I had the $17,000 months and the cars and the trips and the walking the stage. And it all felt so good. And, I let that become my everything. I became a workaholic. I was working at 5 a.m. and at 10 p.m. When we were on our engagement trip, I was working. I was working when I was home with my kids. I was always working because I thought that if I worked hard enough, one day I would not have to work anymore. And I was doing it for them. I'm doing it for the kids. I'm doing it for the bank account. And the reality was I was doing it for me because it felt self-satisfying. And it felt like if I do, people love me for what I do. People don't love me for who I am. And that's just a weakness that this personality type has. And so you have to really recognize and do self-evaluation on yourself and say, where do I have some blind spots? And make sure you're putting the eyes there often and saying, am I doing what I want or am I doing what God wants? So at this point, here I am flying high, 30th birthday. We got the bottle in Vegas, out at spending thousands of dollars. And I remember being at like the top of my game and still wondering, what's next? Why do I still feel unfulfilled? And I think God is so cool because he works in such mysterious, miraculous ways that sometimes feel like a punch in the gut. And they end up being the most incredible miracles that transform your future and they transform your heart. So here we are. And about a year after that, everything started to fall apart, Bethany. The team I had built of thousands started to disperse. There were new, exciting opportunities everywhere. They wanted what I had built. So they went. Then I was working harder than I ever had to just sustain the company and the business. And morally, I wasn't feeling right about it anymore. I felt like I was forcing people to do something that maybe wasn't in alignment for them. And everything just felt wrong. I remember the day this was about 2 years after that high point.
Yeah.
Income had been cut into a quarter. Okay. And we had elevated our lifestyle. I thought I made it. I thought I was going to rain dollar bills forever. Right. And so I walk in the mirror, I go to the mirror and I look at myself and I don't recognize her. She's 60 pounds overweight. I'm lost. I look unhealthy. I'm unhappy. I go to the computer, I pull up the budget. I have to go have the budget talk with the husband. And I realize we can't pay the bills. We now have a cash flow problem. And I hate what I've become. I failed for the first time in my life at anything. And I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I need. I don't know any of it. And so he says, well, we're going to have to borrow money from our kids' savings account to pay the bills. That was the darkest moment. But it ended up being the road to the light. So in that moment, let's not lie, I ate too many Doritos and watched Netflix and cried because I'm like, my life has fallen apart. I have a newborn baby. So I have all these hormones.
Oh,
we don't have any income coming in except my husband, thank goodness. And that covered all the bills, but it was rough. It was rough for a minute. So I panicked and I'm like, okay, I'll start selling t-shirts on Etsy and I'm going to start like teaching English at 2 a.m. Like I literally freaked out because I was focused on the money again. Anyway, I had some friends and my husband and I decided we really need to get back into church and I've got to find myself again. And so we ended up getting in with this great church family. I feel like within the first couple of services, I had a transformation and it was like everything that had been missing I was immediately fueled inside. And I went home and I got out a sheet of paper, Bethany, and I wrote down the woman I wanted to become. And on that paper, I didn't know her yet and I didn't know how to be her, but I knew what she looked like. And I talked about she's a servant for God's will. She's doing what God's called her to do, not what she's calling. She's letting go of the ego and the how and letting go of all the false idols of what people think about her and validation and money. And she's done with it. Like she's literally shedding her skin and being reborn. Her kids come first. She doesn't work more than 3 or 4 hours a day. God provides all the favor and provision that she needs. And she's still fulfilled. She's still touching people. She's still helping them. So I wrote this woman down. And then I was like, well, it must be nice to be you, boo, because I don't know how to get there.
It's like Proverbs 31 when you read it and you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Must be nice.
Must be nice to have that clarity because I don't think it exists. Well, what I did is I decided I'll do one thing every day that she would do. So I got into a great gym, even though I couldn't afford it. I decided that's the one because it's going to make me show up. That's the one that my kids can do the daycare and I can work. They have a Wi-Fi bar. That's the one. I just invested without having the provision for it. Then I decided I was going to start eating healthy. I just made the choice. I was done. I was done messing around. I was done eating my feelings and I got rid of all of that food that was going to keep me there. I then decided I didn't know what I was going to do for work, but I was going to trust God and I was going to stop trying to control the how. So every day I would do something that this person would do. And it's crazy. When I got in alignment with that, miracles started to flow in, Bethany. I had my parents call, hey, we have this extra vehicle. Do you want to use it for a year while you get out of your lease? I'm like, yes, please. Then I had another call. Hey, Steph, do you ever do any like social media consulting? Can we pay you $3,000 a month and you can do this consulting? I'm like, sure. Like all of the provision came in for me to get through this. I then had a new friend come in who ended up becoming such, a godsend, had to do therapy. I had to heal my mindset around being a failure, quote unquote, or only being successful when. And it had nothing to do with what God had placed in my heart. It had everything to do with the earthly pieces of my personality and the desires of the flesh, not the desires of the soul. And so over that year, I went through a rebirth. I'm closer. And now it's been 3 years since that point. So at this point, I'm closer than I ever have been spiritually. I've learned to tame the weaknesses in my personality and strengthen and focus and highlight the things I am really gifted at in small doses so that it doesn't take over. I've built a business that's passive. I work 3 hours a day. I have intentional time with my kids and my family and God. And every morning I get up and spend 30 minutes with God. I go to the gym every day. Like, I'm her. I'm her, the woman on the paper that I wrote down 4 years ago. And it's mind-blowing to me to recognize that the only way I could become her was through Christ. So there you go. That's the long story of how I got to where I am.
Okay, well, first of all, that's an amazing story. Second of all, you just sipped a seltzer, so we bonded even more on that. Okay, so now I've got some specific questions for you.
Let's hear it. I'm ready.
You wrote this down, right? This is the woman I want to be. And you said, I do one thing every day that she would do. So was this like a cumulative effect? Like, because I'm not going to lie, when you're in a place where it seems overwhelming, I've heard of like add one thing a week or one thing a month, but one thing a day, you've literally done 7 new things in 7 days. Was it that aggressive for you where you're like, one day you started going to the gym and from that day forward, all the days you went to the gym, the next day eat healthy, from that day forward, it's gym and eat healthy. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I think it was more like, do something every day that she would do. And it naturally started to become what you're saying. So I went to the gym one day and it felt really right. So I went the next day. And then maybe that next week, I'm like, what else would she do? I'm ready for something else. And I just really was so in tune with my heart. I had to really silence all the voices in my head telling me you're not worthy, find something to do, get a job, and say, stop. God told me to heal me first. That's what I'm doing. And so the second week would focus on, I'm just going to stop drinking Cokes. That's something she would do. And that's what I would do for that week. And then maybe the next week, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. What else can I do? She would pray every day. And so it was like kind of this natural evolution. And every time I added something in, it felt so aligned. I didn't want to let it go.
Yeah. So I like that picture of it because initially I was like, that actually overwhelms me a little. Like,
Thank you for clarifying. That's such a great illustration of that. Cause yes, it does sound like, whoa.
I was like, though you are a 3, so I'm not going to put it past you to get that done. But no, I think it's beautiful, that picture of just like take something on, kind of get rhythm with it. And then I find in my own life when I'm making healthy decisions, and I don't even mean just physical health, but in any way, like pursuing Christ, the longer I spend on that one decision, I start to long for the next one.
Yes.
Like it's almost like it definitely builds on one another. So I love it. You used a term that I may be the only one that doesn't know what it means, but could you explain it for me, that you run a passive business?
Yes, I love that question. Passive income is money that comes in without your direct time, effort, and energy, okay? Now, there's a difference between residual income, where that would be something like you have a membership group and somebody signs up for the group, and every month that money is coming in, but you're still showing up. You're in the group, you're typically helping, you're typically coaching, follow up, customer. Passive is something, my favorite, and what I coach women on helping them with is creating an online course, because it's a solution that you have. People keep coming to you for the same thing over and over, typically. So for me, they were like, help me launch a podcast, help me start a podcast, what is my podcast name? And I'm like, oh my Lord, I'm getting hired for this all the time. And they can keep paying me hundreds of dollars per hour. Or I can say, let me create them a course. It took me, let's say, a month to record all the pieces, put it all together at my best, highest work. Okay. I package that up. And then I say, world, instead of you hiring me at this price, take the course. She gets a win because it's less expensive than working with me for 6 weeks, right? I get a win because I don't have to show up with private clients every single day. And it's now passive, where once you've created it, you can set it and forget it. And I have a group where if they have questions, but it's rare that someone else doesn't pipe in and answer those questions. It's a beautiful thing. So passive is something like an online course that you can create and you can step away from it and it still makes you money while it solves a problem for your avatar, right? You're not just doing it to make money, but you're doing it because it will better their life in some way.
I like that a lot. And now you have my brain.
Yes, you're like
turning on this.
So what course are we going to create, Bethany? We're going to need to do that.
Now we need to create something. Can it involve seltzer? Can we go that direction?
Exactly.
I have mine over here on the side.
I would rather drink seltzer water than plain flat water. I'm just going to keep it real. It's like, I'm just going to go with the seltzer. I did a 21-day fast, it ended 2 weeks ago. And the number one thing out of coffee and meat and all the things, I'm like, I just want some carbonated water. Why is this so hard?
I would have a hard time giving it up.
Yeah.
So normally I ask the question about what are some pivotal things along the way that, have really made you into who you are today. But based on what you shared, and it's kind of in line with that question, of all of the things that you decided this is something that woman would do, what were maybe the top 3 that if you could pick them were have you ever heard the word picture of if you need to fill a vase with rocks, you put the big rocks in first and then let the small rocks kind of fall in between? If you could pick those 3, these were not just game changers, they were transformational for me. What might those be?
Okay, so I know the first one for sure. When I was 21, I got breast implants, like I had mentioned, and it was for the wrong reasons. It was because the guy I was with said you'd be more proportionate. I've always had a very large booty and a small top, just who I am. Anyway, he planted this idea that if you were curvy, you'd be more beautiful, right? And so I went and got these breast implants, and I hated them for 13 years. They were too big. Then I breastfed babies. And so then they were horrendous. Then I got into the gym and I'm wearing 2 sports bras. And I'm like, this woman would get rid of this problem. I don't need fake implants in my body. No offense to those of you that have implants. If they're for the right reasons for you, rock on, sister. But for me, it wasn't who I was anymore. So I decided to get them removed. And it was terrifying. I was going to go under surgery. I could die. I had babies now to worry about. It wasn't just about me anymore. And I was terrified of what the aesthetic was going to end up as, and just all the things, all the fears. And so I'm sitting there on that and I'm going, okay, I'm going to go through this and I have the choice. Am I going to be open about this? Am I going to talk about it publicly? Or I'm just going to get it over with. Not that many people know I have implants. It's going to get awkward. They're going to ask me questions. They're going to judge me for getting them in the first place. Then they're going to judge me for getting them out. And I just had all of these fears. And I sat down and I thought about what would she do? What would that? And my word of the year was truth and authenticity this year. And I'm like, dang it, word of the year. I have to talk about this.
Don't you hate word of the year?
I love it and I hate it because it pushes you in the most amazing ways. I've been thinking about next year's word and now I'm just going to make it a good one. I've been thinking it's going to be growth, which is scary. Or expansion. That's what I was thinking. Anyway.
I just think wealth, joy.
Yeah. Wealth is a good one. Wealth is the one that most people would be afraid to choose. And it would be such a great one to watch someone choose that word and make intentional choices to get there. I really like that. You should do that one. So I decided I'm going to be open about it. And it was the scariest thing I've ever come out about. Now it feels like not even a big deal. But at the time, I recorded a podcast episode about it. I wrote a huge blog post. I took pictures about it and said, boobs do not define your worth. And I had a picture pointing to my boobs. And I went out. I publicly put it everywhere. It was public. I put out the podcast episode. I almost threw up in the trash can at the same time. And I asked God, you asked me to share this. You told me to be truthful and authentic. And I shed all the fake that I had. all the Instagram feed, it was gone. The I'm going to be like her, it was gone. It was just, I'm me with my messy mom bun, with my messy mistakes that I've made along the way. And I'm just going to talk about them. Like, God forgives me. So take me or leave me. It was crazy. I was flooded with love. People, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about doing that. Friends I had that I didn't even know were going through this were saying the same thing. Breast implant illness became a big discussion and people were asking me about that. And it was so great. And I didn't have any hate, nothing. I felt loved and encouraged, and I didn't feel like I was hiding anything. So that was the first one. It was hard and it was scary, but bearing your soul and sharing your heart and your truth, especially when you're in it, it will help someone else transform and have the courage to speak up about what they're facing. Because it's easy to wait. Well, once I'm on the other side of something, I'll share it.
Yes.
But sharing when you're in it, that's the magic.
Oh,
right?
For sure. Because I thought about this a lot with just the power of what we preach and God's relationship with us. Is I think for a long time, I just held on to that image that God was waiting for me to get to the other side. Like, he loves me, but I just need to get to him. And the whole truth behind it is, no, he's walking in it with you. And that we're called to live that with other people, to walk in the mess, not just in the, oh, I figured it out. Here's my 1, 2, 3 steps in order to get to where here I am. So
I know it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And that brings me, I think, to the second one, which is, of course, praying over something before you do it. But then when you get some type of Holy Spirit confirmation, whether it's scripture, something you hear when you're at church, a book you pick up, that is your divine intervention. That is your tip to go. And it's not clear. And I think so often we as Christians are waiting for the big booming voice to say, do this. And here we are, like, just waiting expectantly that there's some type of really clear answer. But what God wants for us, I believe, is to give you the direction. And then he wants you to go mess up. He wants you to fail, because through that are the learning opportunities to fine tune your craft, to really learn and understand. Like, I couldn't be where I'm sitting if I hadn't gone through the breakdown and the failure that I had earlier in my entrepreneurship journey. I couldn't talk to women about body love and female empowerment if I hadn't gone through hating my body for a long time. So even though you feel in the moment confused and why am I here and this hurts and you're not giving me clarity, it's on purpose. You have to think big picture and understand that if God gave you that call, it's your responsibility to be obedient, even when it's not clear. So the second piece of that was taking action when I didn't know the how. I started a blog. It was a mess. I talked about fixing your mantle, and that wasn't it, but I tried. And then I did the YouTube channel, and that felt better, except that the diaper would fly in through the screen, you know? And I'm like, okay, I don't think YouTube is it. I hate makeup. I'm not here for it. Then I would get on Facebook Lives. Oh, I see. This feels better. I can be myself. I can be me. The woman that I need to touch, she's hanging out there. Oh, it's podcasting. And it took me a year of trial and error to figure out the platform that God ultimately wanted for me. But if I had started the show right away, maybe it wouldn't have done what it's done now. I wouldn't have had the confidence on video and on camera, and I wouldn't have had the copyright skills that I have now. So just do, just try, just do. That's the message there. That's the second one that I really started to do.
Is it Brene Brown that says, you know, when you're afraid, just do it scared?
Yes.
Like, don't wait to have it figured out and to just, I heard another quote lately, but I don't have it written down close to me, but it was along the lines of what you just said, of when you're going to do something, to just do the messy version. Like, don't wait to pretty it, like jump in and let it be messy, because that's part of how we create and how we like, that's how you learn by being, and that's also the authentic, that your word of the year is, if you just wait till you have a pretty bow, then that's not really showing people the reality. That's kind of, again, waiting till you get to the end.
Amen to that. And you know what's cool about where I've gotten is when something fails or messes up, I'm so pumped because I get to share it with the community. I'm like, you guys, I had a flop. I tried to launch this thing and like 4 people bought it and it was a hot mess. Let's dissect why. And so it's super cool now to me to know that when I have these failures or these, mess ups or these hard moments, that's a learning opportunity for everyone involved. And I have to share that because the woman on the other side is looking at me saying, but don't you mess up? I can't be you if you never mess up, if it's never hard for you. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, everybody's in different places in your life, but if you're in this online space, or even if you're a Christian and you're trying to touch other Christians, maybe it's time to talk about being imperfect. When you fail, what do you do? When you turn to scripture, how does it help you? And really kind of opening up. Like, I think if we normalize being open and vulnerable and sharing, it creates that ripple effect that can change the world. So, third one, the third biggest stone, I guess, through this journey was I didn't get distracted. It was so easy to say, I'll just go back to corporate. I can walk into a 6-figure salary in corporate. I have a master's in finance. It's comfortable. It's safe. No, I'll just go to another network marketing company. I could probably step in and quickly make 6 figures. I know how to build it. People will follow me there. It was easy to try to follow stability and comfort. But I went and I resisted that with all my being. And I said, I'm only going to do what God calls me to do. And I'm going to follow the excitement and I'm going to follow the soul call. And he's going to open the doors. He's going to put the right mentors in front of me, the right opportunities in front of me. I'm going to fearlessly leap when he says, even if I don't get it. And that was so counterintuitive to everything that we are. We want to be safe. Our brain is constantly telling you, be safe, don't stay, don't be safe. Because our forefathers, they had to survive in the wilderness. But it's a different time now, and it's a time where we can actually go against what our head is saying and start following our heart, and it's terrifying. But because I did that, I'm her. I'm the girl I wrote on the piece of paper. If I had gone against that and said, well, I actually don't trust you, God. I'm not too sure if you're going to pay the bills for me. I'm not too sure, Lord, that I can trust being an entrepreneur because I just failed and now I'm not good enough, even though that's my soul call. I'm going to get a job. That's me not trusting what God put in my heart. And I think his test was, you going to trust me when it feels like it's against all odds, when there's no answer, when there's no client knocking at your door. Are you trusting me now? And you have to trust. You really do. And you have to go and follow the excitement, follow the thing that lights you up, even when the money isn't behind it. And I'm not saying quit your job and run away to Bora Bora. I'm saying do it.
Bora Bora lights me up.
Yeah, right? Do it in tandem. Like, you still have to pay the bills. So keep the job. Those of you taking me very seriously right now, keep the job, but you follow the soul call with it. And you're going to start to see the miracles and the doors will open and you'll transition into doing something like that full time.
That's awesome. So you kind of talked through when you were describing some of the things you tried. You did the blogging thing, you've done the YouTube video, obviously podcasting. Tell me a little bit right now in this, just what's in front of you. What is your platform? What is running your race, as we like to say in Hey Girl language, look like for you, right? Like today?
Yeah. It's interesting because I started to let my 3 grab me a couple months ago, and I recognize it now, which is great. And I'm like, ooh, Stefanie, sit down. What's the deal here? And so I started to pray over it, and I asked God, what do you want me to do now? And I was thinking, I'll start a second podcast and start focusing on selling my podcasting course. And I heard there was a scripture, and it said something like, I don't remember where. I saw it. I'm still looking for it. And it said something like, remember the call I gave you, patiently pursue it. And I heard that, and I'm like, oh, dang. Wow. Like, that was very clear because God told me to start the podcast. It was the most clear, define, I woke up from a dream and those were the words. And so I knew, and I said, okay, I hear you. I'm not going to get distracted. It's the podcast. And my podcast, it's so cool because it's all of me. It's the faith. It's the business. It's the mindset mentorship. I make fun of my hairy eyebrows and my wingding hair, and like, she gets me. And it also allows me to market podcasting courses because the woman listening is an entrepreneur. So it's so cool. So the podcast is right now my 100% focus. It's my passion project. It's my baby. It's the biggest income driver for me. And I just got done with the season of Create, which was a new course back in the summer Podcast Pro University. I just launched my first journal, which is With God, She Rises. It's a morning routine for Christian entrepreneurs. So I'm done with creating for now. And my whole focus for the rest of this year is like, I want the best content. I want people's questions specifically answered. I do live coaching on my show, which is amazing. And people love that. So that's my platform. And I think too, you have to look at what does your avatar want? And mine is the Christian mom. She's an entrepreneur. She is driving, listening. She's at the gym. She's cooking dinner. She's doing laundry. So she's not watching. So I had to also be honest about how does she want me to show up? And it was podcasting. So hopefully that was what that question meant.
No. And so you're using a term I have actually heard before, but I'm thinking not everyone has.
Okay.
You've asked the question a couple of times, what does my avatar want? So for those people picturing very large blue people, how do you have your own avatar? Can you explain that in terms of like how you plan out your business, your focus strategy around this idea of an avatar?
Yes. Okay. And even if you're not in a business, okay, let's say that your job is homeschooling or being home with your children, or you have a corporate job, you still have an avatar. And a different way to say this would be like your ideal human or your ideal customer. So for me, her name is Lola. Okay. She's a Christian mama. She's trying to launch this online soap business. She knows how to make the product. She's excited. She's really passionate about organic products in your skincare. She's got 3 boys and she also has a job. So she's really struggling. Where do I launch these products? How do I set up an email funnel? What's an email sequence? How much money should I invest in this business before it's profitable? Where do I start? What's an online course? Could I have a course? Like what? And how do I balance life with my boys? She drinks coffee a little too much, maybe like me, but she's, wants to do her best. And so this woman, I know her so well that when I show up in the world, I'm talking only to her. On my show, I even call them Lola sometimes, like, what up, Lola? Because they all know that's who they are. And it creates this, like, whenever people leave me reviews for the show, they say, it's like I'm talking to my best friend, which is the best possible, confirmation I could have. It's that I'm that relatable that you could be sitting down with me to coffee and feeling so comfortable with me that we'd be best friends. That to me is winning. So I want you to think about, those of you listening, who's your human? Who is it? Who is your ideal person that you were created to touch? And for some of you, it might be a child. And I want you to frame out, what does that child look like and the needs they have and the worries or the constraints, and how can you solve and serve and start with serving. How can you serve and solve for free this person's problems? And maybe it's, you have a job and you work with elderly people. Well, then your ideal human is the elderly, and they're lonely and they're looking for compassion and they're looking for, comfort as they get closer to their time here on earth. And I think for you, you would have to really think about, how can I offer my heart to them or comfort? So it's just a simple exercise to go through who your human is, write it down as detailed as possible. And then as you go out into the world, knowing that you have these gifts to serve, remember your human, talk to your human only when you're showing up on Instagram, on your Facebook videos, talk to her or him specifically, and it will make the biggest difference in how people feel about you. Your authenticity will show. And really, at the end of the day, it will also grow your business, because people buy and work from people that they know, like, and trust. And you've heard this, but this is the number one way that you can put that into practice.
That's awesome. I love that her name is Lola.
Yeah. I have a picture of her on my, in my office too. So like she has a face and like, it's so cool. I just love me some Lola.
That's fantastic. You need to make a flat Lola that now goes and like travels the world with all of your listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, in all of my courses, I talk about Lola, so I have the pictures of her, so everybody knows who she is. I'm like, one day the lady who that picture actually is on the internet is going to go, who is this chick and why is she so obsessed with me?
Yes. She'll be like, I'm never doing. It's like just a Siri, the poor lady who like recorded Siri, having no idea that, yeah, you're going to be haunting all of us. But
Exactly.
that's fantastic. Okay, so I know we're going to run short on time here, but I have a couple of just like kind of rapid fire questions for you for the end.
Oh, I hate these, you guys. I just can't do it. I'm a planner.
So here's the thing. I decided for season 4 of Hey Girl that we were going to, instead of trying to like argue we're not necessarily just a girl podcast, like, you know, whatever it is, I've decided to overly embrace people's cliche ideas of girl podcasts. And we're just going all feels, all emotions on these.
Oh, I love that. Okay, good.
We're gonna.
I hate when someone's like, "What's your favorite song?" I'm like, I don't listen to music. I can't. Don't ask me this question.
No, this is all here. It's all
okay.
And I always say it doesn't have to be deep, and it can. And it should definitely be the first thing that comes to you. Like, you don't have to filter through. So, are you ready?
Like I say an emotion.
I am going to give you an emotion and ask you, I'll give you the first one, as this is the only one you're going to get seconds to think about.
Okay.
For instance, the first question would be, what is something that makes you cry or makes you sad? Okay. So it's going to be like that. Are you ready?
Gotcha. I'm ready.
Okay. So what is something that makes you cry?
My kids growing up.
Oh, yes.
I read a book to them last night. It was one of those dumb books that talks about, are you cherishing the last time your kid's in the crib, the last time they snuggle with you in bed, the last time they play baseball? And I'm like sobbing my eyes out. I'm like, I'm throwing this book away.
Yes. I don't need this reminder. So what is something that scares you?
Something that scares me that I actually just uncovered in a coaching session that I personally had was that I'm afraid of big success because I'm afraid of leaving my family behind. And it was very transformational. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Got some work to do there.
What is something that makes you angry?
When children are hurt and abused, and I feel so unfair that little kids sometimes are born into situations that they can't help. And I just want to punch some people in the face when I go into Walmart. Let me be real with you right now. That really fires me up. When I have millions of dollars, hear me, I am putting so much money into someone whose call is helping abused children, because I think that is something that needs to be, it's just ignored, and it's happening so much more than we're aware of.
Oh, preach. So obviously you've got a lot going on, exciting things. What is something in your life that makes you feel rested?
I actually detox from social media every weekend. I delete the apps. Yep. Every single weekend, they're gone. You can't.
Love that.
I'm obsessed. It's changed my life and my community. Some of them do it with me now, the ones that aren't scared. I'm like, are you going to do it with me now? And, you know, some of them are like, I'm still scared. They do the little poll. But it's so amazing to not be expectant. What's happening here? I need to check. I need to look. You have nothing to wait for or look at when it's gone. So if you are challenged, need to do a check heart as far as, am I being truly present? Get rid of social media and test yourself. And I'm pretty sure it will change your life.
Oh, I love that challenge. So last but not least, what is something that makes you laugh?
Oh gosh. Are you guys watching Working Moms on Netflix?
No.
Because if you're not, I am like busting out snort laughing.
I love snort laughing.
Working Moms on Netflix. It's a must watch, moms. Please. Any of you that are mothers, even if you're not, you'll probably die. Like, it's so funny.
Oh, love that. Well, Stefanie, this has been incredible. I have notes and a whole lot of things to think about. And I just feel like your story, the different things you shared, are going to mean so much to our listeners. So thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Bethany.
Isn't Stefanie amazing? I left that interview and like immediately subscribed to her podcast, and I have been listening to episodes almost every single day since. I want to encourage you, listeners, take the time today, go find Stefanie's website. She's stefaniegass.com. Follow her on Instagram. She's under Stefanie Gass. Check out her online courses. Quite a few of you have reached out since we started Hey Girl and asked, like, how would I start a podcast? What does that even look like? She has something called Podcast Pro University that you definitely want to look at. She can take you from like, I barely know what a podcast is, to actually hosting and running a hugely successful podcast. So subscribe immediately, if you do nothing else, immediately to her podcast, Mompreneur Mastermind Show. And I'm telling you, a few episodes in, if this is something that you're interested in, you're going to be going to all of her websites, following her in all the places. I just love all of the things I've already learned and taken so many notes in terms of the wisdom and the understanding and the experience that she brings. So, as always, thank you so much for listening this week. If you haven't already, do me a favor. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hey Girl Pod, because this season we got a whole lot more going on there. And what I don't want you to miss is kicking off this week, which we have giveaways. Guys, I don't know if we've ever had giveaways, and I'm so excited. I can't even win or get the giveaway, but I'm so excited to start giving you, our listeners, gifts. And so go follow, because this week is one of my favorite giveaways. We're launching with this. And again, spoiler alert, this giveaway definitely connects to our dear friend Stefanie Gass, and she's been so generous to be a part of this. So follow us today, because this week you're going to get more information at Hey Girl Pod on our Instagram, on our Facebook, and I don't want you to miss out. Wherever God has you this week, listeners, do me a favor. Run your race in your place, wherever that is. Just keep being faithful, because girl and guy, God created you on purpose and with purpose, and you're standing right in it. I cannot wait to hear more from you through your reviews, through your messages. We are praying for you this week. Have an incredible week. Bye.